I'm still in bed because it's raining. I don't know if you can hear it. I just don't want to get out of bed yet. Yeah, if you're new to this channel, well, welcome. My name is Dawn, and today I'll be covering everything you need to know for voting for the Canadian federal election. I am not a political person at all. I'm doing this video because a lot of people have been like, oh, like, I don't really know what it means to vote, or like why I should vote, like why does it even matter, like who should I vote for, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's also my first year of like doing all this research and making decisions.
Like the year of just realizing stuff, and everyone around me were all just like realizing things
about who I want in our government, and I think it's really important. So hopefully you learn a lot from this. Throughout this video, I'll probably be wearing a lot of different outfits because I'm not filming everything on the same day, just because my schedule doesn't allow me to do that. So bear with me in all the changes, but hopefully the content is good. So in this video, I will be covering why it's my first time voting, why I decided to vote, all that kind of stuff. And then 2, I'll be covering what Election Canada wants you to know prior to voting. Everything like getting registered to vote, knowing where to go, and the dates of like when to vote, and then how you can work that into your work schedule or your school schedule and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll probably go into like the different parties that we have in Canada, just breaking down like what the general ideas, things that they like believe in and are strongly like supportive of. And then I'll be going over like who is running and where those certain people stand on specific issues that are important to me. Hopefully this video will be super unbiased, so that you will be learning lots about like different parties like believe in, so that you can make your own decision on who you want to vote for this year. And then finally, I'll probably end the video off with telling you what you need to know for voting day, and hopefully you stick around for the whole thing. Just an FYI that if you don't want to listen to a certain part and want to skip to any certain part, all of the skipping parts are all in the descriptions below.
A few moments later.
So why I decided to vote this year, and why I haven't voted in the past, is basically because the last time voting season came around, it was 2 years after I had arrived in Canada, maybe even only 1 year. But I basically like was scared. I was scared to go alone to somewhere to vote because it seemed like scary to go make a decision and like go in a cubicle and do something. I was also scared to make the wrong decision. I didn't know who I wanted to vote for. I didn't want to do the research. It seemed very like a lot of work, and B, felt like I wasn't gonna get the right information that I needed, which is why I'm making this video, because I really want you to know that it's not actually scary to do this. If anything, like, go with a friend. They'll probably be so down to do so. I decided to vote this year because A, I'm 22, I need to figure my stuff out. I want my voice to be heard. I'm not usually the type of person that doesn't go to vote, just because I like want to have had an impact on like who gets chosen to run my government. I also think it's really important because the past 4 years have been really scary of like who has been in power in different governments in different countries. So I really don't want to make the same mistake as other countries. I basically want to have an impact on who gets to be our prime minister. So if you feel the same way, I've done all the basic research that you need to know. I am no expert. Disclaimer, if I say anything that you don't understand within like political terms or voting terms, Google it, use a dictionary, use the online dictionary. The internet is your oyster. Or I've also linked a like voting glossary down below if it's like next to the glossary link. CBC did an awesome overview of all the like political terms that are used during the season, so check that out.
Day 3.
Sorry about this mic situation. I forgot my mic and didn't think I would be filming outside, but here I am on a patio, not even my patio, and I will be talking about what Election Canada wants you to know. The first and most important thing you need to know is the general election voting day is October 21st. Mark that on your calendar. It's Monday, October 21st. Okay? And if you can't make that day because you're working or whatever, technically if you're working, you are allowed to leave. It's a federal offense to not let you take a quick break to let you go vote. If you cannot make the 21st, you can vote from the 5th to the 9th on a campus that is participating in early voting. You can also vote on the 11th to the 14th. I believe that the polling offices are open for over 9 hours, so you basically have no excuse. There are exactly 10 days that 10 full days of being able to vote. And if you cannot make any of those dates for whatever reason, say you have finals and you or midterms and you just are going to miss out, Elections Canada has made it super easy to be able to vote by mail. You just have to register separately for that in advance, and you have to register to vote by the October 15th. So that is October 15th, you have to register to vote. And I will be telling you exactly how to do that because your girl got you. Follow along with me. It's like you're doing it with a friend. Just do it with me online. So follow along. It literally only took me 2 minutes to complete this, if not less. If you follow the link that I've provided, you'll get to this page. Just press the start button and then read all that privacy and security information and then press next. And then you follow this poll type survey, basically whether or not you're a Canadian citizen, if you're going to be 18, your home address, whether it's in Canada, and if you're a Canadian Forces elector, so whether or not you're in the army. And then press next, and then you fill in all your information. I have censored mine for my safety purposes. Go through that. Once you press next, you'll be prompted to choose what kind of placing you live in. So if you're just in regular city, regular life, you press the first one. Then you enter your postal code, again censored for my safety. Enter your address information. Super easy. And then you get basically a summary of what you've entered, and then you check whether or not you're a robot. I am not, so I entered my numbers. And then you get your receipt, basically. How easy was that? And you just have to wait for your ballot to come in the mail. So if you want to register to vote by mail, I will leave the link down below on how to do that and the steps that you will need to take. Register by the 15th at 6 p.m. There's a pretty hard cutoff, I think. I don't really know how the government works. Take a second to comment whether or not you've registered to vote. On voting day, did you know that your ballot is not going to show the people running for Prime Minister? How confusing is that? Basically, what happens is that within the area that you live in, there are a certain number of people running for a place in the House of Representatives. I might even have that word wrong. In government, in the Canadian government, in the UK government, they have a house where everyone sits and talks about policies and debates things and talks about issues and money and all that kind of stuff. So there are people running for positions in the House so that they can support the Prime Minister with the decisions they're making. People that are running for Prime Minister, you'll actually see people who are within that party who want to run for a seat in the House. Whichever party wins the most seats in the House wins Prime Minister. That's why you won't see the actual Prime Minister. How confusing is this shit? Is this dumb? Yeah, I really wanted to explain that because I didn't know that, and I know a lot of people go to the ballot for the first time and are oh my god, I don't know who these people are. So to figure out who is in your area and what party they write in, just follow along. Oh, I didn't even know this was covering me. Lol, my bag. Sorry. I hope you don't mind. I don't want to film this again. I'm gonna be honest. Just follow along with me. I'll just do a quick tutorial on how to do it. If you also follow the link below, you just have to put your postal code into the link, and it shows you exactly from who is running in your area and from what party they're in, and that's basically all you need to know. Okay, that was a lie. You also need to figure out where you need to go to vote. So any facility around you, where you'll be on the day of voting. I go over that in my screen recording, so follow along. Okay, for this screen recording, if you follow the link that I have attached below, it will bring you here. Basically, this one will show you where the facility you can vote at that is closest to where you live, and the people that are running within your district. So once you enter your postal code into the purple box, it shows you this, and then you just decide what you want to see. It tells you which quadra you're in. So where do you vote? And it tells you all the different places on what dates you can vote at. How nice and detailed and summarized is this? So look through. It gives you a summary of all the dates, all the locations, and does like a basic overview of facility accommodations, which is really nice, and then any related questions to your voting. And then you can go to look at your candidates for your district, and then it shows you what name is running from what party. Boom! Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. The different parties within Canada. I'll only be discussing the ones that are running for Prime Minister, so mind the bus. But there is the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, the NDP, and the Green Party. Basically, I came across a really great resource that covers every single party's like platform and like compares where each party stands on certain like controversial issues like climate change, taxes, housing, education, all that kind of stuff. So I will be going over some things that are important to me and my generation, I think. And like where parties stand on that after I explain what the parties are. So the Liberal Party is basically the left party, and the Conservative Party is basically the right party. And if you don't know what that means, it just basically means the leftists are more, they think more like the younger generations today about, they're really open to LGBTQ. They think history is problematic. They want to support LGBTQ. Plus they think that climate change is a problem. They like are very acceptive of it. They are very open to immigration laws and like accepting lots of people, and they're not like putting down taxes and like regulation on like especially rich people. Yeah, that's like the general like consensus of like what liberals believe in. And then the conservatives are basically like all for history. Like they really love Canadian history, and they basically come from a Christian background or like a Catholic background. So if you think of like abortion laws, like they would be probably very against it. They're like very pro-life, so like they don't want to be killing babies. They are anti-tax and regulation, so they're like quite heavily geared towards the economy side of like government and politics. And they're also pro-oil industry. So if you're not for this, like maybe hopefully this like gives you a better idea of like where each party stands. Conservatives are also not extremely like supportive of LGBTQ community. They also support gun regulations. Like they don't think gun control is like as important as like liberals do. They don't love climate change, and they are also extremely tough on crime, and liberals are not. So like if you like whatever I said and like I didn't say for the other side, it's like they're opposites. If there was a spectrum of like how far radically left liberals are and how far radically right conservatives are, NDP sits a little bit farther than liberals on like how liberal their ideas are, and then the Green Party apparently sits even more left of that. So thinking about like strictness and all that kind of stuff, like just like that's how I would like scale it. From that, I will be going into what each party thinks on certain topics. Regarding housing, the reason why it's important for me is like eventually I'm going to want to buy a house, and I'll be like a first time buyer. A big thing that conservatives want to do is they want to expand the amortization limit to 30 years, which means they want to expand the amount of time that a first-time buyer can have a loan, which is pretty like reasonable, I think. They also want to implement a 20% Greens home tax credit. So basically give you money if you're interested in making your home a little bit more green for energy saving renovations. The maximum amount of money they want to be able to give you is $20,000. On a liberal standpoint, on housing, they want to increase the loan by 10%, the amount of loan that you can get by 10%, and then give about $40,000 to be able to make your house a little bit more weather resistant. The Green Party wants, like, the most important thing from the Green Party that came from their platform on housing was that they want to like create a minister of housing, so that on national housing, so that someone can like actually oversee all the housing issues, because obviously in like cities like Vancouver and Toronto, like they're a really big problem, and like if without someone who's like regulating it constantly, like it just doesn't make sense. And then finally, the NDP also wants to do a 30-year like loan term for first-time buyers. Okay, the Conservative Party said that they're committed to reaching the Paris Agreement by Target, and they want to propose taxing heavy emitters for like greenhouse gases and carbon. Who knows what that actually means though on like actually meeting the Paris Agreement, because like there's no actions like proposed on how to do that. So if you care about climate change, we should ask for more info. And then on Liberals, they want to phase out coal by 2030 and then eventually pledge net zero carbon emissions by 2050. They also said that they want to protect natural land and oceans by 2025 and plant 2 billion trees. 2 billion trees. That's pretty crazy. The Green Party on climate change obviously has like the strongest like ideas, but they want to reduce emissions by 60% by 2030 and then hit net zero by 2050. They just want to ban fracking and then eventually end oil imports from foreign countries and oppose any fossil fuel projects. The NDP wants to cut greenhouse gases, spend $15 billion to retrofit buildings, and invest in renewable energy and clean tech. I'm just reading my notes. Like, I'm so sorry if this is not interesting. You can skip through. Or if you press the 2 times button, I can talk 2 times faster for you. So for climate change, I would go with your gut on like what is the most realistic and how much money you're willing, like you're okay with the government spending on something like this. And then on education, this is really interesting. The Conservative Party wants to make student loan interest free for 2 years post-grad, which is great compared to the a couple months right now. Like it's actually ridiculous. Student like loans are so like messed up, and they want to boost the max amount of student like bursary that you can receive from 3. And the Liberals want to boost interest in savings accounts for parents, like RSP savings accounts. I don't really know about this because I didn't use it, but a lot of people do. From 20% to 30%, which is a huge increase. The Green Party wants to eventually eliminate all student loans and eventually eliminate tuition and forgive all student loans. Like that's just like ridiculous. I think that's crazy. But that's awesome if they can achieve that. So if you want that, I guess vote for them. And then the NDP party, they want to eventually also eliminate tuition. Like super radical thinking, awesome. Like from a money standpoint on like a student or like a parent, like I would love that. That would be so awesome. But like then think about how much taxes you would have to pay realistically, stuff like that. So keep super open-minded about this, like about everything that everyone's thinking. Like I'm just trying to give you the most unbiased with like my thoughts input. On immigration issues, the Conservative Party wants to help those facing like true persecution. So if they're really struggling within their country, like they obviously want to help house them. But otherwise, I don't think they're interested in bringing that many more people in, which is fair, but like, okay. The Liberal Party wants to accept more refugees, and then increase in asylum shopping and regulate immigrant consulting. I don't really know what that means, so you can maybe look that up and then let me know in the comments below. And then the Green Party wants to accept refugees where so depending on like what kind of jobs we need, we'll like accept refugees, I guess. And then the NDP party wants to prioritize family reunification, which I think is awesome too. On the issue of Indigenous relationships, the Conservative Party just said that they want to embrace developing energy sources, which I don't really understand, because like that has nothing to do with building relationships or like reconciling your relationship with the Indigenous people. And then everyone else wants to like work towards like making the relationship with Indigenous peoples and groups better. So the Liberal Party said with Indigenous people that they want to implement the stuff that the UN, whatever the UN said, and then the Green Party said that they want to put more money into First Nations education and implement all the recommendations for all the missing Indigenous women. And then finally, the NDP party wants to add a new national council for reconciliation, lift all drinking water advisories, so that everyone can have proper drinking water, I think. Yeah, so on like the consensus of jobs, the Conservative Party basically wants to move forward with the pipeline, the Trans Mountain pipeline, so that it can create thousands of jobs for people. The Liberal Party wants to promote $15 minimum wage across the country, and so does the NDP. And then they all want to. The NDP and the Green Party want to ban unpaid internships, while the Liberal Party just wants to increase the amount of money that each company can have for training their employees. Yeah, and then on taxes, Conservative Party wants to do a universal tax cut from 15% to 13.7% over the next 3 years, which basically means you'll get more return of taxes. And then the Liberal Party wants to raise personal income tax deductions for those earning under $147,000. And then the Green Party wants to increase corporate taxes for big companies like Netflix, Google. I wonder why they didn't say Amazon, but Airbnb and Facebook. And then finally, the NDP party wants to hike up the personal income tax rate for like those earning lots of money, like copious amounts of money. And then finally, this is the last topic I'll cover, is transportation. So the Conservative Party wants to close the gap between how many cars exist, how many like regular cars versus electric cars exist, and then they want to get rid of the bank that funds transit, and I think eventually work with a new bank, or like fund it themselves. And then Liberal Party want all new vehicles sold by 2040 to be zero emission. The Liberal Party also wants to put in $3 billion into public transportation, which is crazy. Green Party wants to put a reinvestment in all new cars to be electric, reinvestment in transportation, and they want all new cars sold to be electric. And then they want to create like a national grid so that you can drive across Canada, no problem with an electric car. Finally, the NDP wants to electrify all transit by 2030, and they want all vehicles sold by 2040 to be zero emission. And they also said they want to reestablish a rural bus service. Totally correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. I'd love for everyone to have a discussion below and like talk about all these things, because it's super important to like get different opinions, get different views, and all that kind of stuff. And if any of my facts are wrong, like please correct me, because like I'm not as eloquent as other people, and like I'm not a expert in this, so This is just from like my basic research that I've done through CBC and like a couple YouTube videos I've watched, and those will all be linked below. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and let me know if I'm missing anything in the comments below. Again, like all my links and all my all the resources I use is down below, so use those to your advantage. Please consider voting, because it's like super important to do so and have a say in like who your leader is in your country. Yeah. Okay, bye.
I could let you have it. You could be my heaven. You could be my woman, right? I don't want you having any time I know.